Kyle here from All Media Reviews, here to do another Kevin Gilbert Thud track. It's, this would be, I think, number 6. Am I correct in my tracking? Yeah, it's 6 or 7. Anyway, it's, well, there's a way to tell. For Shadow Self. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it's the 6th track, I think. So there's, I don't know, I really think there's only 5 versions, maybe 6. So there's the standard version, then there's 3 versions on this, I believe, on the 2015 and 20th anniversary edition. There's the Late for Dinner Dark Mix, then there's mix number 2, and then there's Bill's Board Mix. You know, if I'm not mistaken. And then the Thud Alternate comes with listing of 2 versions, although on the track list on the back, doesn't. So there's only 1. So I think there's only really a grand total of 5. So, yeah, the one that's on here is just Shadow Cell version 2-1 mix. Version 2-mix 1. And the rip I got shows, yeah, version 2. I don't know. There's only 5 that know. Anyway, Shadow Self on Thud is, by a lot of people's tokens, considered like the most overtly prog track. I mean, and it kind of is. I was just thinking about listening to it today, listening to all these today. It's kind of like a mini opera in some ways. A little bit like both Suit Fugi is kind of like that, and also, of course, the long extended Tired Old Man suite. It's like a little mini opera in some ways. It's about a lot of other stuff. I mean, my overall take, actually, besides like hearing Back in New York City, which I didn't even know the song at the time, from the tribute album, Shadow Self was one of, if not the first song I ever heard from Kevin. I didn't get won over by him that much when I heard it, but I didn't really understand what all the fuss about him was when I heard it, but it was. I think before I heard Toy Matinee, I'd heard this. And I've grown to like it. It's always been so big and packed. It's almost the antithesis of what he was sort of doing or going for on this record in a way, because it is so packed with layers of things. There's a lot, really. I mean, this is a monster of a song in some ways. He put a ton into it, and it was originally titled Late for Dinner. That's notable. And there's 1 or 2 versions I've got in one of these bags around here where I got my Kevin CD. It might be in this bag, which actually has it labeled as Late for Dinner. I don't have time to pull it out right now. But I've always found that kind of weird based on the tone. And it's also been a song that sort of is like Jekyll and Hyde, or see, I wrote down a couple things. Jekyll and Hyde, where it's someone like looking in the mirror. It's like trying to see that it's like a multiple personality disorder kind of thing. Now, in Kevin himself, well, it never was really documented. People believed he was kind of not blatantly, but partially in some ways bipolar. So he had these kind of moods. Maybe it hasn't been really recorded and noticed in some ways, but people that knew him, I don't know if he was actually bipolar, manic depressive, but so it's kind of itself like a conscious, like looking at yourself and Shadow Self. So there's more to it. So anyway, I'm going to get into the different versions. So the standard version, I mean, again, it's a lot. One thing that's notable that I probably have never thought about, that I remember knowing a while back and everything about the last couple of years with Robert Farris. Robert Farris was involved with this song, involved in a number of tracks on Thud, or at least a couple. And of course, he's like, and Kevin always was involving with Giraffe, with even Energy, but some of the stuff on Call Me Kai. Not Toy Matinee, really. But anyway, Robert Farris does the Scary Viking Choir vocals, which I've always thought of as, and I refer to in my notes as, the cylon vocals. I don't think he does the sort of distorted vocals, though, when you're hearing his in different parts. But I think it's just him on those, like, fast process vocals. I mean, I could be wrong, or maybe him and Kevin. But, you know, there's some lyrics on this song that I've never fully, like, I've never read through and just realized what he was saying. He says, it's there I am. It's there I am. But actually it's here. It's not. It sounds like here I am. Here I am versus there I am. And he uses the word when you're irate, which I didn't realize. It's just talking about the word hate. And then he says, you will become me, repeatedly. And it always sounds to me like he's saying, you will be coming, like B-E space C-O-M-I-G, or the word becoming, you will be coming. You will become me. It's almost like it's like the dark side, the devil is like possessing him, like his good and bad side, the angel, the devil. It's like you will become me. And then, there's certain lines like from schoolyard brawls to Pentagon, and then on other versions, this is on the standard version, he says the word to the Pentagon, or Pentagon doesn't sound like that. Then the line I've always thought of, one of the lines I've always thought of the song is, you give me a conflict, give me a war, just give me something worth fighting for. It's like, well, give me something, I need to do something, I need to feel like I'm worth something. I don't know, a lot of lyrics on Thud and a lot of Kevin's lyrics have sort of political, social, and even talking about the military and war and conflicts. He's had lots of songs, and this would sort of, it's kind of metaphor, but he's referencing both the Pentagon there and then a war. Give me something to fight for because I feel worthless if I'm not, and things aren't really going. I want things to get better. I want to fight for something to make things better. Then he uses the word, I like the goose step. And, I don't think you hear it as goose step, but it is goose step. Like a goose, like an animal goose, Goose. And the definition of a goose step, again, talking about a military marching step in which the legs are not bent at the knees. So it's, proper marching. He's talking about goose step. So there's a lot of military, armed forces, war kind of elements, metaphors in the lyrics on this song. Part of the lyrics, at least on Spotify, are in Spanish, and those whole processed cylon vocals. I didn't realize. Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing, the processed vocals. And it reminds me of Suit Fugi with the whole, track by over many tracks of vocals on that standard version. That standard version has so much to pack and has a lot to it. It's hard to believe that there were other versions that in some ways did different things, more to them, in some ways better. So the Late for Dinner mix, the standard version 7 minutes and 5 seconds. The Late for Dinner mix is slightly shorter. It's 6:25. Starts out quite different. It starts out with he starts singing I'm a sick man, a very sick man. It's sort of, but it's like kind of light. It's not as layered. It's like foreshadowing what he would do later. Would sing later, the chorus. He sings it slower. And also it sounds almost like a mellotron. It probably isn't a mellotron, but mellotron in the kind of as a bed for it. So at 1 minute and 36 seconds, it starts out, and the verse, creep up behind you when you're filled with hate. I get excited when you're irate. Make your conscious, let's see here. Now we think that part really gets fast. It's faster, I think, than the standard. There's some distortion, some guitar's distortion, I think it is, and static, leading to the part where he sings, you will become me. Then the part, there's a fire in my head you can't put out, is more clean. So like there's distorted vocals and distorted guitars, and then it gets clean. He changed that. The processed vocals, the cylon vocals, are not quite as layered. And then there's a sustain of the mellotron synth at one point. And you hear, after the word there I am, you hear some laughing, which is, I don't think the standard version has some. It's very short, so a couple seconds. Then the chorus, there are no words to say, shadow self, nature's way, no one is ever free. That part is a little different as well. A little faster, if I recall, a little more distorted. It's a little that distorted vocal layer he used. And then you hear some minor key elements in the outro at the cylon section. Also that cylon section, which is so noticeable at the end of the standard version isn't the whole whatever you want to call it, scary Viking choir, the Viking choir. But you hear a minor key guitar track for like, I don't know, it's like 30 seconds. All right, so moving on to mix 2. Again, that was Late for Dinner mix. Was it Late for Dinner dark mix? Mix 2 is also on this 20th anniversary. That one starts out with keys. This one sounds more like something he would have done with like Giraffe, maybe. It has more of an 80s element. There's even one part, it kind of reminds me of Marillion's Season's End. I think this is the one. He sings that part with the keys, I'm a sick man, very sick man. It's not with distortion in the vocals, and then the main theme. But it has a very 80s, mysterious, mystical quality. It's very cinematic, almost dark wave. So, yeah, okay, so Creep Up Behind You has the same distorted vocals with the bass and the guitar mix that you hear on the Late for Dinner dark mix. But the section that he starts singing You Will Become Me is faster, I believe. That's what I'm noticing then in the standard version and on Late for Dinner dark mix. And it's got a really good groove to it. But yeah, this sounds a little bit like something, the keys add that texture. It sounds like Season's End era Marillion to me. I mean, it's not the only thing it reminds me, but that's what it came to mind when I was listening to it. They have the laughing track, just like on the Late for Dinner dark mix, right before the distorted vocals, Don't Try to Keep Me Bottled Up Inside. Yeah, so I mean, that's the character thing. It was like maybe the dark character in him, the devil, the whatever. The Hyde version of him is laughing. And it gets fast tempo, the very fast, the faster tempo of You Will Become Me with the chorus. And then the guitar is included instead of the first part of the cylon vocals. That's one thing I noticed. Yeah, so like toward the end of the song, that sort of the Viking choir, the dark Viking, whatever it is, dark Viking choir, scary Viking choir vocals kind of go on for like a minute and change. A lot of the first part of that is just guitar with some synths and whatever, a bass line. It's a guitar solo. And the version, a couple of other versions have a guitar solo, but it's not the same. But that version is like a minor key blues guitar solo. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. It's just longer, and eventually you do hear the processed scary Viking choir vocals, but it's not as long and as higher in the mix. It doesn't go on for as long. So, okay, moving on to Bill's board mix, the third version, which is 7 minutes and 3 seconds on this. It's not as layered. Then there's like this echo Doppler effect at the beginning, where right before he goes, I'm a sick man. It's kind of weird. I don't know, it's just like the panning. I didn't have headphones, so I wouldn't be able to tell which side, if it's panning from one side to the left to the right or whatever. But it's got this kind of echoing element. The guitar, bass, and drums seem to be mixed a little higher on Bill Bottrell's board mix on this version. Not dramatically, but a little bit. And the guitars seem to be more prominent in the actual, like, central to the theme of each part of each verse, really. There's the line, "There's a fire in my head." You don't hear Kevin's vocals with distortion, really. Doesn't sound like it's got the distortion like on the standard version and a couple of other versions. And the other thing on the Bill's board mix, he ends up extending out certain lines, certain words, and "you know the way," and then also later on, "just look at me" is extended out. There's a bit of synths right before that, but yeah, to me, that Bill's board mix sounds like a demo, and points of it sounds like it's like the standard version, but a demo version of it. So, like, you know, what they do with demos, they usually kind of try to polish them up, but they're very similar. A lot of respects it is. He obviously changed some of the vocal parts a little bit. And, of course, the Doppler effect thing I was mentioning. And let's see, the guitar riff. Yeah, the guitar riff at the end, again, that outro, the last minute and change, again, features a guitar riff. It kind of hit me. It reminds me of Smash from The Shaming of the True, which that was a guitar part that was actually played live, because Smash was played live. So the version that's on The Shaming of the Tree is actually a performance of Smash live. But that I'm kind of going off topic a little bit here. That dun 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 dun, the very bluesy guitar solo at the end of Bill's board mix on this, which sounds a lot like Smash. And it goes on for us. It's very bluesy. Okay, so now moving on to Thud Alternate, which just came out, whatever it was, a few months ago. Like I said, there's 2 versions on this CD, but I think it's for 2 tracks, but I think it's the same one. And this one, I think, naturally is like the closest probably that resembles to the standard Thud version on the, I've got here. But there was a couple things that I noticed. For one thing, like on Bill's board mix, there's a guitar solo of the last minute and change, but it's in a major key. And so I actually really like that part of it. I mean, that's my favorite part of the guitar part of all these versions. Let's see here. The guitar riff sounds slightly different in You Will Become Me. Vocals are more backgroundy, distorted, old radio sounding on that first verse. The guitar riff seems to be more noticeable, I guess you could say. So it's like more guitar-centered version of Shadow Self. The drums and the snare sound louder, a little louder and cleaner at the beginning. Like you can really hear the snare. Clean melodic guitar riff before "Give Me a Conflict." I don't that first line "Give me a that "Give me a conflict" that part of the verse. I don't think that was on any of the other versions, including the standard version. Is this the one with the percussion? One of these versions, I think this is it. It has like this kind of chopsticky percussion in one section. Yes, the distorted vocal part and it is different. There's a brief drumstick rhythm like chopsticks. And then the acoustic guitar and bass seem to be mixed a little bit higher. There are no words to say. And the bass is quite high and You Will Be Coming. That's not different, but I notice it slightly more. It might be mixed a little bit higher. Yeah, then the blues guitar. The blues guitar is, again, it's a clean. It's almost like a Satriani or it's blues guitar, but it's much cleaner. I really like the way that blues guitar works. The version 2, the second one on here, I wrote a couple more things. He says "To the Pentagon." Now I think it was probably, again, there's only one listed version on here, but I just didn't write that the first time I heard it. There's one line in the sort of Robert Ferris scary Viking choir vocals. Angels made to face the horror. I don't remember reading that when I was reading through. I've read through those lyrics before. It's a lot. It's all jumbled up. And the guitar solo is a little higher mixed. But, yeah, I mean, it's, there's some differences on the different versions of this for sure. It's not as dramatic as some of the songs among all these songs on Thud, the different versions, but that guitar solo on the alternate is great, though. The Shadow Self is a monster. It's like a mini opera, and it's just super highly layered, and it's one of the most unusual approaches to using vocals. I'd never really heard any vocals like that, the processed vocals that sound like cylons from Battlestar Galactica. Yeah, I mean, he kind of downplayed it. It's like, well, it should have been called Late for Dinner. It's just, I was late for dinner once. I mean, I've always enjoyed it. I don't know if I'd say it's my favorite song on Thud, but I can understand it's always a song I've appreciated. It's probably the song that it packs the most punch and there's the most to sort of get out of. It's also very dark, so that's why I kind of don't always listen to it. It's not as the most uplifting song. It's, in a first impression of Kevin Gilbert's music, and I hear a song like this, it's like, give me a conflict, give me something worth fighting for. It's very, I don't want to call it demonic, but he definitely, I mean, you could see why he would eventually lead to writing songs like, Smash, or even the song off Shaming, or stuff on Caviar, especially the Caviar stuff, because what's the name of that song on Shaming that I always space on? I painted Santa's Ghetto Beautiful Things. You can see where Ghetto Beautiful Things would be a natural progression to something like Shadow Self. It's like Kevin was he was kind of done holding back. He's like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Everything that happened, with the Tuesday Night Music Club, although he was writing this and working on that at the same time. But even before that, with Patrick Leonard or whatever, I always got the sense, and just the industry itself, he just kind of came out on this, then came out on Ghetto Beautiful Things, a lot of Shaming, and then Caviar. But, you know, it's like, what is it, you know, darkness is more honest and leads to beauty versus happiness, you know, can come across superficial, that whole thing. The Steven Wilson quote about something poppy versus something, you know, not poppy or whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's a great song. What's your take on Shadow Self, Late for Dinner, if you've heard the other versions? I mean, some people consider it his best track, and I can understand. It's not my favorite, but I can't deny I still appreciate it. Hearing these other versions, you know, I love the original version a lot. But it's like a lot of these other versions, I think there are parts of the other versions that I like more. That guitar solo especially. But anyway, so that's about it for Shadow Self / Late for Dinner. Moving on to the next track would be, I think it's Tears of Audrey. I don't have Thud off the top of my head. Yep, Tears of Audrey, which would be number 7. So yeah, that's another one that I think there's a bunch of different versions. So it's going to be, you know, these are not... To go through these isn't exactly a short process. That's why it took me so long to, like, you know, discipline myself to finally do this. But yeah, Tears of Audrey, see, I've got it here, actually. There's the standard version, then the Thud 20th Anniversary demo, which is straight, and then the instrumental, which is longer, 5 minutes and 39 seconds. The standard's 4:45. Then there's the acoustic version, and then there's the Thud Alternate. This one has a Ringo mix. So there's a grand total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2. So anyway, thank you for watching. One more house cleaning item. I just put an announcement that the 10th anniversary of being on YouTube is coming up next Monday, but I'm actually going to do a live stream, try to do a live stream tomorrow evening, and I got a bunch of lists from 2014 to 2024, movies, television, albums. Gonna still do songs. I haven't made the songs list yet. Bands that I discovered, YouTube channels, and videos. It's a lot of retrospective, nostalgic stuff, and I think actually doing a stream, I might have the kind of allotted time to actually discuss a lot of them. I don't know if I'll be able to have any guests. I'm not sure how that works. Try doing that. It might be me just talking to my laptop. I'm going to try dealing with clipping on the microphone. I apologize if that happens again, but I've done some Zoom calls with the Reign of Kindo people, and I haven't had that problem, so I don't know. But anyway, and thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Give it a like. Oh, I should just mention, it's on 7 o'clock tomorrow, and then probably next Monday, so a week from today, 7 o'clock Tuesday night, but then the following Monday, probably late morning, because I'm going to the doctor, and then I'm going to the doctor, and then I'll be coming back here. That's like at 9:30, so therapy for my back. But yeah, so I got those 2 live streams and some videos and stuff. But anyway, thank you for watching. Please give it a like and subscribe, and see you next time.